Well, that's the principal reason for anyone collecting antiques. If that's not true, why don't you buy a new thing instead of an antique? You want to live vicariously in the times that are presented to you by that object. That's very important. Why do people collect autographs? Except to live vicariously with the person who signed that thing. I have a nice George Washington autograph, and I can look at that thing and say, I'm here with him. Look here. I think that's very important. And I also think that maybe people don't realize that that's why they collect. To live in a very small way with those people. And I talked about that in my Thrill of the Chase book. I mentioned a story, the chapter titled Teachers with Ropes, where I had a George Washington portrait by Gilbert Stuart, whose portrait of George Washington is on the $1 bill. And I had all these school children from miles around would come in and sit down, and I would lecture them on who George Washington was, what the American Revolution was, who the British were, what the 4th of July means. And then I would ask each student to wash their hands. We had washcloths we passed around. Then come up and touch George Washington. The teachers were appalled that, this was a very expensive painting. And you're going to let the kids touch that painting? I said, sure. So the kids, they're giggling. But when they got up to George Washington, they stopped giggling. They were very serious. Most of them touched him on the nose, some on the chin. But I said, when you touch him, don't push, don't scrape, don't use your fingernails, but very gently touch George Washington and close your eyes and think. And it was a thoughtful moment for those kids. It was an experience that they would not get anyplace else in the world. And there were times after that, years after that, I'd walk down on the plaza in Santa Fe with an ice cream cone in my hand, and a young person would walk up to me and say, "You're Mr. Fenn, aren't you?" So, remember me? I touched George Washington. They remember that. You teach kids by example. Paintings and antiques are not to be worshipped. They're to be enjoyed. And there's nothing wrong with smelling a painting. There's nothing wrong with touching a painting, as long as you don't offend the painting. I would never buy an oil painting that I didn't smell of first. Does it have kerosene on it? Has somebody been working on this painting? Has the paint been touched up or removed and replaced? And I want to lift it. I want to look on the back of it. I want to see if the canvas is tight on the stretcher bars. Are the stretch bars new, or are they back? Has the canvas been placed on a board, or is it the original canvas? Has it been relined? I want to smell of it. I want to do all those things, and I want to touch it. And if it was a painting that I bought for strictly commercial reasons, it's not a painting that I particularly enjoyed, but I knew that I was going to sell it and make a few bucks, I would hang it opposite my office, opposite my desk in my office. So that every time I sat down, I'd look at that painting. I wanted to become friends with that painting. I wanted to establish a rapport, and I'll tell you an interesting story. The only Santa Fe client I ever had, with some exceptions, was a woman by the name of Pony Alt. She had a bunch of money. She enjoyed art. She had a good eye, and she was easy to like. So I bought a painting by Robert Henry, a portrait of a little girl, and I didn't like that painting at all. I bought it because I knew I could sell it, or thought I could sell it. So I called Pony Alt and I said, "Pony, come down here and look at this painting." She walked in my office. It was right there, and she looked at that thing. "Is this what you want me to look at?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I don't like that thing." And we laughed at each other, and she left my gallery. And she happened to be in there with some friends. Another time, a few days later, she brought Gregory Peck into my gallery. That's what it was. And we were looking at that painting, and she said, "Forrest, why did you buy that painting?" I said, "Pony, that's Robert Henry. That's an important painting." And she said, and they walked out. But About a week or 10 days later, I look up at my door and there's Poniall standing there. She said, Forrest, I want that painting. That painting has grown on me. You know what I said? I said, Pony, I don't want to sell it. I love that painting. So all things that you would covet are things that you enjoy. You need to feel of it. You need to enjoy it. You need to have a rapport with it. It's not just an object. Like with archaeological things that we found at San Lazaro Pueblo. Many of the archaeologists put a number on those things and put the number in a file cabinet, and that's it. But those things, to me, can come alive. You know, I can conjure back the mystic wonderings of those things. What was it used for? When was it made? Who made it? What were their names? You know, what were their problems? And every archaeological room that is not excavated is a book that you'll never read. And that's important, I think. Save the past for the future is a philosophy that I don't believe in at all. Because what about today?